What's up, guys? Framinthor here, and there has been this interesting yet rather impossible theory regarding Nazoth during Dragonflood, because we went back in time to the Black Empire and he had different whispers compared to the other old gods or something, and this theory, as cool as it may be, is a bad theory. Doesn't make a lot of sense if you really think about it. And if WoW even wants, like, if the devs, the lore team, whatever, want to even play with it, it will be another Warlords of Draenor. There are so many problems with playing with the timeline. I mean, this is literally why Caverns of Time, like, they stop using it, because you're fucking up with the timeline way too much and it creates way too many plot holes that are just impossible to fix. But let's go over this theory and see what I mean. I'll try to explain to the best of my ability, because I'm not the smartest guy in the bunch, but even to me this just doesn't make any sense at all. But let's go. So, did we unknowingly assist Nazoth in escaping his own fate? We love this fan theory. I don't know why you love it, because it makes absolutely no fucking sense, but okay. A comment from Adam G3691 on Reddit has exploded in popularity recently, as the Reddit user points out how we may have recently helped Nazoth plan a way to avoid his own death by our hands. No, we didn't. Vision of Nazoth. Nazoth is dead, at least we think he's dead. Players faced and defeated the old god back during Visions of Nazoth. Battle for Azeroth's patch 8.3. Supposedly, Nazoth's defeat meant Azeroth is finally free of the old gods. Magnet Bronzebeard says, since we've been... I'm not even gonna try. Since being wounded by the Mad Titan, Azeroth has been crying out in pain. In her hour of need, she lent you her power. Today, at long last, she is free from the grasp of the old gods. Her song rings clear and strong throughout this chamber. More recently, during Dragonflight main storyline, players encountered Nazoth again, but in the past, in a quest that involves chasing the bronze dragon Chromie through various timelines. Players finally reached the Black Empire a long time ago, when the old gods still ruled Azeroth. While there, players hear the whispers from the old gods. All of the whispers are just things we've heard before. All of them, that is, except for the whispers from Nazoth, who has some new things to say. I know you, what you were, what you will yet be. You will follow him to the deep places. The dark waters will flow in his wake. With many eyes they will see again. They will drink and be uplifted. Deeper, deeper its roots will reach, welcoming our embrace. Her dreams sing beneath the surface. Our dreams, our song. Now, when we rescued Chromie, did we also help Nazoth? According to the theory, by rescuing Chromie, we helped give Nazoth a way to escape his fate. No, we didn't. When we reported on this before, we know that Nazoth's whispers always begin the same way. Nazoth recognizes us. As the theory points out, this inadvertently tells Nazoth everything we know about his future, including the manner of his death, and this gives him a way to plan for it. What's especially concerning about Nazoth is that we may have accidentally time-looped ourselves into a nasty spot with him. Ever wondered why he was so interested in you specifically, why he constantly considered you the harbinger of his victory, why he saw you as special? Probably the same reason that the Lich King saw you that way. Probably because the writers were like, let's just use the Lich King logic and be like, yeah, I'm gonna turn Azeroth champions against her. That's more likely why we were special. You know, don't overthink it. Usually the simplest solution is the correct one. But yeah, because even though you didn't know during BFA, you met before and gave him some very valuable information. No, you couldn't have met him before. Okay, because then it would be a different timeline, then wouldn't be you from the correct timeline. When you go back in time and witness the original Ny'alotha, the old gods seem to just whisper the usual ominous but meaningless stuff about betrayal, death, etc., but not Nazoth. Instead, Nazoth looks into your mind and realizes exactly which timeline he's currently in, and instead starts talking to you, actually telling you things, because I know you, what you were, what you are, what you will become. By visiting that time period, you inadvertently told Nazoth how he was going to be imprisoned, released, and eventually how he will die. And thus allowed him to start looking into how to avoid that. he can't, because then it's a different timeline and it's not you anymore and it's not anything anymore. It's a completely different fucking scenario. You're special to him because as long as you're alive, he circumvents the biggest weakness of the void. It sees all possibilities and considers them all valid at the cost of not really knowing which one is the truth, because to the void they all are. But with you around, he knows exactly which possibilities are now more likely to happen. Okay, so this is the whole theory. We went back in time. N'Zoth saw in our mind which future we are from. Therefore, he can plan ahead. And then he's been doing this apparently over and over, probably because I'm assuming this wouldn't be his first try. But here's the problem with that. And we'll go to this amazing painting that I made. Okay, so click. All right, so let's say this is like the red timeline is the correct timeline where everything started, right? So like this is the actual history. Okay, Black Empire. N'Zoth doesn't know anything about the future. Then N'Zoth dies, so he didn't prepare anything. So there's nothing in the world that can affect anything that is outside of the main story. Okay, N'Zoth dies, we move on, and now we're in Dragonflight where we travel back in time. Now, even if we travel back in time, the time still goes on, right? So let's say we travel back, we go here, N'Zoth finds out, but for us, this should not matter. It doesn't matter that he found out, because if he's following this timeline, the red one, it doesn't matter because our timeline moves on, because in the original timeline, N'Zoth is clueless, therefore he didn't plan ahead and didn't have any like seed or whatever to rescue him. Okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, so we go back in time. Okay, now N'Zoth knows which possibilities are more likely, so he tries to plan ahead. Let's say the seed in the Emerald Dream or whatever. He plans something for his resurrection, for his victory. Doesn't matter. Even if, for us, this doesn't matter, like we can still follow the red timeline, because this is like such a meaningless change in the world that would not take effect until after N'Zoth dies. Let's say it's something like a seed in an unknown location that it doesn't interact with anyone for this whole duration of this green timeline. Then you would be like, well, then because it doesn't interact with anything, we're still in the red timeline. No, because the seed exists, therefore we're not in the red timeline. Why? Because even if we were, the eventuality of it will change. And that's what you have to consider. Dragonflight is not the end point. It's just a point in time of an infinite amount of time that is still left. So if anything happens later on that changes what should have happened if N'Zoth didn't know, that already fucks up the whole timeline. So technically, we're also not in the correct timeline if N'Zoth knows and he plans ahead. Okay? So even if we get to exact same location of Dragonflight, and for the player and for everyone in the world, it is the exact same, it actually is not. Now, we don't even know how many times this has happened, right? So this brings forth a theory of, if anything, multiple universes or whatever, parallel universes, which would make WoD make sense. And let's be real, WoD did not make any sense, because then there's multiple Draenors, there's multiple Draenors, there's multiple Azeroths, there's multiple everything, except, wait a second, there's multiple Draenors. Isn't Draenor, like most planets, eventually probably a Titan? Right? Are there multiple Arguses? Or is it only like planets that have Titan souls in them that cannot be multiplied? So then you can have 100 Draenors infiltrating Azeroth. And then you're like, well, in that case, why didn't the Legion go to all of these parallel Draenors, unite all of these parallel orcs, and send them through the portal to Azeroth? Because clearly, they all connect to the same Azeroth, right? You start playing with timeline, you're gonna get fucking wrecked, okay? It does not make sense unless the main timeline, by us going back, would completely get erased, right? So as soon as we went back, that's it. This timeline does not exist, okay? We erased it, and now we're playing on the green timeline. But that also means that when you came back to Dragonflight after rescuing Chromie, some things should have changed, but you wouldn't know, right? And then how many times has this happened? So do you want to tell me that whatever you're doing now has been repeated so many times that it is impossible to tell, and only N'Zoth knows, right? Because at some point, this effect, like him knowing, would affect the timeline at some point, right? And then we have to deal with it. And then if that doesn't work, there's a new, like there's another Dragonflight scenario, etc., etc. And this has been played in the background of WoW for millions of times until N'Zoth finally found his right answer of how to resurrect himself and win. Because based on this logic, he will keep on trying until he actually wins. Therefore, we're kind of stuck in this loophole of us going back in time, telling him, and then eventually what happens is he has to win. Right? At some point in time, N'Zoth will have to win then, if you're going to use this theory. Right? Because he would know that he didn't win at any point. So he would just keep on trying to win. Right, this is the problem with like this whole timeline thing, where it's like it cannot be on the same timeline. Him knowing it should not be relevant. The red timeline should always stay the exact same. This is exactly why you have the Bronze Dragonflight trying to maintain it with the whole like Caverns of Time scenario, and also probably why they stop playing with the Caverns of Time scenarios, because playing with a timeline is too complicated for the story. It creates way too many loopholes, way too many problems that you cannot solve, right? Because like, okay, let's say it like this. If I live in the present, okay? I live in the present and I go back in time to change something, right? But then I come back and everything's the same. I know that nothing has changed. Therefore, what I changed was not it, right? So, for example, take the Caverns of Time example, where you go back in time, and let's say the Black Dragonfly is trying to make sure that Thrall dies, okay? They failed once. What is stopping the Black Dragonfly from going back in time to tell the dragons that were doing that mission that they're gonna fail and they need a new strategy, or help them, or send more, like even more back in time? And when that doesn't work, go even back in time for that spot and tell those guys, hey, it didn't work because the timeline is still the same, right? You do not play with timelines because you can just keep like, oh, well, let's just go like 5 minutes before these guys arrive and let them know that in the future you still didn't figure it out, so it still didn't work. And then again and again and again and again, you just keep doing it. That doesn't make any sense, right? It's like lore-wise, it won't make, like, you know, logic-wise, you can make sense out of it, but lore-wise, you'll just be in the same loop forever until you get the people who are traveling in time get the result they want, right? And as we can see, the Infinite Dragonflight, or whatever they're called, I think it's the Infinite, pretty much have an infinite amount of soldiers because they can just pluck soldiers from time, right? It's like the guys who survived for the longest, let's say billions of years into the future, can go back, you know, a few years before and take themselves, like, you know, even go back 5 minutes back in time, take themselves, and then, hey guys, we're gonna go back in time 5 more minutes, we're gonna grab ourselves again, going back in time 5 more minutes, grab ourselves again, going back in time 5 more minutes, grab ourselves again. Then you have an army of one guy who has a billion copies going back in time to kill Thrall to make sure he doesn't get released. You do not play with time, okay? Like, it's such a... I get that the theory is fun, but if they use this theory, it just shows how bad their storytelling is, because there's absolutely no way in hell that this is fucking possible, okay? Just the whole time travel thing and like the implication it has for the current story is just gonna be very fucked up, okay? So yeah, anyways, I hope I made myself as clear as possible, because this whole topic is extremely fucking confusing and hard to explain and shit like that. So yeah, anyways, that's the video. Please, as fan theory, maybe, but please, I hope Blizzard does not listen to this fan theory, or that this was not their first intention, because this makes absolutely zero fucking sense. Okay? It's like if you like, to an extent, honestly, even the Final Fantasy 14 time travel doesn't make sense. It's cool and all, but if you really think about it, a lot of it would not make sense. Okay, because there's so many unanswered questions there, which maybe if people are interested, I'll make a video about that. But playing with time and knowledge of the future will never work unless as soon as you return back from the future, shit completely changed, or there's you just create an alternative reality, or parallel universe. That's the only way you can kind of make sense of it. Anyways, thanks for watching. That's the video. See you in the next one. Peace. Nah, no peace. I need to stop doing that. Take care.